at least I can wake up to a nice cup of warm tea. Elderberry tea. Boy, I swear, yo, New York City never ceases to amaze me. It's an adventure. That's probably why I moved here, and that's probably why I'm still living here. So, the day before New Year's Eve, I was trying to decide how I wanted to bring in the new year. And I know it's a lot of events happening, given that the city of New York had just pretty much reopened everything. Everything is pretty much back open now here in New York. So I knew that it was going to be lit on New Year's Eve. It's just a matter of, okay, what did I want to do? So I came across a few events, one of which was a cruise. And I actually was leaning more so towards the cruise because I like water, right? And the cruise will be very peaceful and, you know, quiet. And they were going to be playing music. It allowed you to see the fireworks on the water near the FDR. Nice little tour, right? That was $75. So I was going to go with that until I decided, you know what? It's been a while since I've been to a comedy show. And I had never been to Caroline's on Broadway, you guys. Broadway. Now, Broadway is in the smack dead middle of Times Square. I ended up getting tickets to go see a comedy show on Broadway. Let me tell y'all, last night, as I titled this video, was a fucking beautiful disaster, okay? If there's any other way I can put it. So, where do I begin? Okay, I'm on my way home from the hospital. I did work yesterday on New Year's Eve. I get done with work like roughly 4:30. Headed home. I get an email from the comedy club saying that they encourage us, they urge us to get there an hour early because the crowds are going to be filling in early. And anybody knows New York know that how it goes when it comes to New Year's Eve, right? The countdown. Everybody and they motherfucking mama. Well, I ain't gonna say everybody who lives in New York because a lot of New York natives, especially black people, they don't make it out there like that. They just don't. They avoid that, and they typically avoid Times Square in general, just in general, right? Let alone the holidays. And so everybody, a lot of people are there. A lot of tourists are there, right? No surprise because tourism kind of opened back up. This was, I think, even last year when tourism opened back up here in New York City. And so I'm reading the email and they were like, yeah, the crowds are filling in. Get here an hour early. And I'm looking at my clock and I'm like, I don't think I'm going to be able to get there an hour early, but I'll see what I can do. Now, granted, I live right here in Manhattan. I live probably not even 2 miles away from the comedy club, right? That's in Midtown. I live on Upper East Side. Not that far, just a couple of stops on the train station, right? From the train. And so I get home, change, get all dolled up, right? Get ready. I had to actually stop. I had to make a pit stop because I had to get my favorite South African red wine, jam jar. So I got a couple bottles of that, getting the mood right, getting ready, right? I'm fucking lit. I'm ready. Like, I had took me a couple sips before I left my place. I'm headed out. I see where they said that they were making an announcement at the train station saying that the train is not going to stop at my stop, the stop that I'm supposed to get off at, right? So, which was 49th Street. So I ended up getting off at 57th Street, right? Not that big of a difference. Get off at 57th Street. I knew that it was just going to be chaos. I get out of the train station, and of course, all the streets are blocked off. They block the streets off probably a day in advance anyway, right? The crowds are already out. I exit the train station. I'm looking like, okay, which way do I go, right? And I know from the email they were saying that we have to enter on 8th Avenue to be escorted down because it's just mess, right? So I'm trying to figure out what's the best way to get to 49th Street and 8th Avenue. When I say it's a test of my patience, getting from the train station to this comedy club last night, it was a fucking test of my patience, yo. So I'm walking and I'm dressed in my nice Malian mudcloth peacoat, right? Flowing. Feeling good. I already had a couple sips of wine. And I'm trying to navigate because, like I said, all the streets are freaking blocked off. And they have, like, NYPD is in full effect all over that area. Like, I felt like they were overdoing it. And it was a bit annoying, right? And it's like, no matter which way you turn, which block you try to turn down, right? You'll go one direction, end up at a stop, a blockade, right? Where it's blocked off and there's police officers and they're like, oh, you can't go this way. You got to turn down this street and go down that way, right? You go down that way, the police officer on the other end tell you to go down this way, right? So the first time that happened, I was going south, right? Because I exited the train station at 57th Street. So I was going south to get to 49th and 8th Avenue where they told us to meet the escorts for the comedy club. And I approached the officer, right? And I'm like, okay, I'm just trying to get to the comedy club, right? On Broadway. He was like, oh, you got to go. He told me to go back north, right? I'm just like, I got to go back. Seriously? He was like, you got to go. And he was telling me to go like several streets down, right? And I'm just like, no way. You cannot be kidding me, right? Granted, I'm going against time. Because I did purchase tickets. And by the way, the ticket for the comedy club show was like $45, right? I'm like, I'll be damned if I miss this fucking show, right? And of course, there are no refunds. And so he's pointing, telling me to go this way, right? So I started to walk in the direction where he told me to go. Then all of a sudden, he was like, excuse me, don't test me. And then next thing you know, a swarm of fucking police officers just surround me like they ready to take me down. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me, yo? This could not be happening. Like, I'll be fucking damned. I'm like, it's not that fucking serious. He was like, oh, it is that serious. I told you to go that way. I said, no, you told me to go this way. Now, how you communicated that to me, that's on you, right? But he clearly told me to go to actually east, right? And no, was that, yeah, he told me to go basically, was that west, right? West, because east would have been the other way. And, but yeah, back north. He told me to go west, right? In that direction so that I can go down. But that's how he was like, the way he was giving me the directions, it was like confusing anyway. And so I'm like, all right, but then the fact that they were just so ready to fucking snap and take someone down just for, like, I walked a few steps. Like, are you kidding me? He was like, oh, we shouldn't come down this way anyway. Like, real bad attitude, right? So I'm just like, hold up. Hold up. What you ain't about to do? Oh, let me light my sage. Let me take a pause real quick. Let me take a pause real quick, yo. Because I'm just like, yo, I cannot believe this shit, right? So he's getting all elevated. He's getting elevated. And I can see, like, yo, real quick, he almost went from, like, 0 to 100 real quick. Like, I'm watching his body language, right? His chest is fucking rising. He's breathing all fast and shit. And I'm just like, you need to calm down. Like, you're getting dysregulated. You're trying to tell me which direction to go. Like, calm down. You got to calm down to be able to effectively communicate to me so that I know which direction to go. Because how he explained it initially, it was like, okay, go this way, go west, right? And then go back, go down to 49th Street. That's the way he explained it. He was like, go west, which would have been walking towards 8th Avenue, and then go south. But he didn't say it the right way, so I started walking the way he told me to go. He was like, oh, no, that's not where I told you to go. So another officer came up. Well, I was kind of surrounded by officers, but then One of the officers looked at me. He was like, "Oh, I got you." He was like, "Let me tell you where to go. Like, you're gonna go this way." Like, they weren't on the same page at all, yo. That was the fucked up part about it. It was just a chaotic mess. So the other officer, his fucking buddy, was like, "I got you, miss. I got you." So he was like, "Here's what you're gonna do. You're gonna go this way. You're gonna go that way." I was like, "Yo, why aren't y'all on the same page? This is very confusing." He getting all fucking dysregulated. He all turned the fuck up for no damn reason. Like, he need to calm down. And he getting madder and madder. I can feel his energy like over my shoulder. He's just like, this motherfucking bitch, right? And so, and I was basically confirming what his buddy told me the direction to go, right? Which was really out of the fucking way. But I'm like, okay. And I was repeating it back to him. He was like, yeah, you're going to do exactly what he told you to do. As to try to make it seem like he wasn't splitting, right? Okay, the fucking video be chopping up. I can see that his partner was getting really fucking mad. Because he felt like I was splitting going to. I'm like, well, you're not communicating. And you're not the best one for this job. Because your ass is like, he seemed like he was ready. And a lot of what I noticed, and that's not even half of the story, y'all. It's more to the fucking story. But pause right there. What I noticed, and this is nothing new. Clearly, right? We know this as black people. A lot of those officers are not fit for that kind of job, right? They don't know how to communicate. That's what it is. Because a lot of issues, right, misunderstandings can be resolved just through effective communication. So that's the reason why they resort to physical intervention, right? And want to pull out their guns and try to kill people unnecessarily when it could have just easily been fucking handled just by you staying calm, number one. But they don't know how to do that. You know, they have low fucking frustration tolerance. They're easily fucking triggered. That's what it is. They don't like black people. So that already is a goddamn trigger, right? Just interacting and having to deal with black people is already a trigger for them. And I picked up on this energy like right away. I could tell like he was one of them, right? So I'm kind of playing on that shit. And that's what he was like, oh, you're testing my patience. Oh, no, you're testing your own goddamn patience, which maybe you need to work on building more patience, right? Because, listen, I'm not the one, right? And plus, I got somewhere to be. But I think he needed that testing of his patience, though. But anyway, so I ended up going the direction his partner told me to go, right? Who was able to communicate it clearly. Went that way, but it was still, like I said, out of the way. Finally get around to 49th and 8th Avenue. That shit over there, every fucking part of that area in Times Square was a chaotic mess anyway, right? I see you watching Charisma. Chaotic mess, right? And so I get over to that part. Of course, they have offices over there, right? And I'm telling them, I am here to meet the escorts for the club. And then one of the officers is like, oh, okay, yeah, you to talk to them. Just go over there in the middle and talk to them. I go over there in the middle where the escorts were, in the middle of the fucking street, still being separated by the barricade, right? I go over there, and then some different officers is like, oh, you're going to have to go over there. But I'm like, no, but they're right behind you. Can you just get them? She's like, oh, you want me to get them? Yeah. Like, some of the attitudes of the police officers, yo, is fucking nasty as shit. They're not goddamn helpful. I'm like, why are y'all here? Y'all supposed to be directing people the proper way, and y'all got attitudes and shit. And not really fucking paying attention to what people are saying. And so then they came up, and I was like, yeah, I purchased tickets for the comedy show, and y'all escort me. I was like, oh yeah, sure, right? I get escorted, right? So that was a smooth process. Get escorted, felt like a fucking celebrity being able to pass through all those barricades and shit, like ah. And I wanted to look at when I finally got back to the other street where I wanted to go back to those initial police officers and be like ah. But anyway, I get to the club. It was nice. Now, granted, it was my first time going to Caroline's on Broadway. Very like nice setup and everything, right? And I'm letting the security know, like, yo, this shit was a fucking disaster just getting here. Like, it's crazy. You would think you're trying to fucking trying to get FBI clearance or something, like passing through all of those goddamn officers and going around this way, but finally made it, right? Show was great. It's funny though, one of the comedians was like, yo, you fucking need thick skin, yo. This is not for the faint of heart coming out here. And it's definitely not. It's not my first time, actually. I've been out in Times Square several times during the New Year's Eve celebration. So, I mean, I know what time it is, but I'm like, I'm here for it too. Y'all here for it, I'm here for it too. But it was a good time though. So, fast forward to after the show, right? I really enjoyed the show. Got some pizza, by the way. Pepperoni. Like, I like the thin crust. That shit was made perfect. It was good. I ended up getting like 3 drinks. I started out with my Pinot Gris because they didn't have my jam jar. I started with my Pinot Gris. Hello, Charisma. I kind of find it weird when people just watch and not say anything. So there you go. At least it was worth the hassle. Yeah, it was worth the hassle. That's why I say it was like a fucking beautiful disaster, right? And so from that, I had nice food. Oh yeah, I ordered, my first drink was Pinot Gris, and then I ordered margarita. That was delicious, right? But it was like small glass, but it was good. And then I ordered another Pinot Gris to kind of top it off. This really set me in motion, right? So I leave the comedy club. Now, granted, the show started at 7:30. The ball doesn't drop to 12, right? Midnight. So the show lasts maybe like an hour, 15, hour, 30 minutes roughly. Exited the comedy club, and then we're out. We're in the fucking midst. This is Broadway. This is Times Square. We're in the fucking midst of everything, right? And it's just more chaos. Trying to navigate. Of course, I'm already down here, so I might as well stay. See the fucking ball drop. Now that is my first time seeing it, because I saw it, when was this? A couple years ago, actually, with a friend. That's a whole nother story. Made a whole separate video on that. That was interesting. And so then, so like navigating, trying to figure out, okay, where do I want to go see the ball drop, right? Because they try to make it seem like, oh, you can't go this way. That whole shit is bullshit. I have to let you guys know, if you guys never been to New York, New Year's Eve, right, to see the ball drop, it's a very invigorating, enlivening experience, right? But they have it where they try to, I guess they tell the police officers, they train them to say, oh, this is the protocol, right? That's their go-to. Oh, you can't go this way. You got to go this way. Unless, this is the caveat, right? You can go down those streets they have blocked off if you live in the neighborhood and you have business in the neighborhood, right? Like you're trying to get to a particular establishment or business, or even if you work at the business, right? Or there's a hotel you're trying to get to, right? You have a reservation. You can't, it's like they're not going to tell you that, right? It's like you have to provide proof, and you have to initiate that and let them know. Which I think is kind of fucked up, because even people that actually had reservations, like including myself, they were just still giving us a hard time. It's just like, it don't cost for all this. Like, people pay good money to be down here during this time, and y'all giving us a hard time, right? But what I noticed, right? Now, granted, they were telling everybody, including white people, like, oh, you can't go this way. But what I noticed is, like, how they responded, depending on the race of the person, when that person gave them pushback. So, for example, like I said, everybody was initially said, oh, you can't go this way. But, right, if you're trying to get somewhere, right, of course you're going to give pushback, because you're like, okay, I need to get down this street because I have a hotel, or I have, an event to go to, or whatever. And so what I noticed is the difference in how they treated the black people versus the white people. Like, I pay attention to this. This is like what I did my dissertation on, right? Implicit racial bias. And it's funny though, because rewind back to when I started my PhD program, my first year in the program, I initially wanted to do a research study on implicit racial bias in police officers. However, the program director advised against it, saying that it's going to be difficult to be able to recruit police officers, right, to gain access to them, because they're such a protected group, for obvious reasons, right? They don't want to be studied, especially from the outside. They may do their own internal research studies or whatever, done by their own departments, but to have an outside researcher come in You know, especially they don't know the person, they don't know what their agenda is, so to speak, or whatever, and how they're gonna, you know, whatever, right? So I didn't do research on implicit racial bias in police officers. Instead, I did it on implicit racial bias in preschool black children. It is a gang, Charisma. It's definitely a fucking gang, and it's even a tighter gang, especially in. I mean, all over it's the same way, right? But NYPD is a different breed of a gang. Them motherfuckers, yo. And so, and I noticed that, like, I interviewed with them for a psychologist position months ago, before I accepted my position working with the state. So, yeah, I can tell just the energy in the room. I was meeting with one of the chiefs and a head of department of psychology within their department, and it was the two men, right? It's like it's two of them against just me, right? And they nervous, and I just the energy, like I can pick up on that nervous energy. They shaking, they stuttering. I'm like, y'all interviewing me, but y'all nervous. So that let me know, like, what y'all feel uncomfortable about, right? What y'all got to hide? But yeah, I know what it is, because obviously I'm pro-black. I mean, it comes out clear as day. It's emanated in my energy. Being a black woman, you know, you can tell they have some skeletons. A lot of them do, right? So yeah, I'm like, this is not a good fit. You know, I can feel the paternalistic energy coming from them in that room. It would have been a cool job, though, doing fitness of duty evaluations for officers who basically had encountered issues along the way. A lot of them being like high profile issues where, you know, investigating like where they actually probably killed a black person. You know, I would have been doing like fitness of duty evaluations, psychological evaluations for those officers. But anyway, going back to the story. So, yeah, they were treating people differently, right? And I noticed there was a lot of crowds of white people and their families and friends and stuff, and they had reservations, and they would be escorted easily, like without that much pushback. They didn't give that much pushback, right? They would take them. But then a black person, I noticed, because I had to sit and observe to see how these officers were going to respond differently, not necessarily related to me, right? Because at this point, I'm done. I, you know, had my experience with my event or whatever. So this was after my event. I'm just chilling, kind of waiting on the ball to drop. But also observing and looking at how NYPD was running their little posts and shit like that, right? So I'm looking and seeing like, okay, they just told this black woman, who I think was a tourist clearly because she had her luggage and everything. She said she had a hotel reservation down the street where we were on that was blocked off. And she had her daughter in tow, right? And she's telling the officer, I'm trying to get to my hotel. And he's like, oh, but you can't go down here. Just like, not even empathic. They don't give a fuck. You can't go. It's just like, you can. That's the rule. You can go down if you have a reservation. But he's giving her a hard time. He's like, oh, well, you can't go down here. And she's like, just going back and forth, like, please let me down. Please. She's begging, pleading. Please let me down. I have my daughter. I'm tired. I have a hotel reservation down here. We're in Times Square, right? In New York City, Manhattan. And he was not letting up, right? Unrelenting. So she left. After she left, there was no surprise, right? White people come up. Same scenario. They have a hotel reservation. Oh, come on through. I'm like, no, y'all can't go through. So I'm sitting up here playing fucking police now. I'm like, no, they can't go through because you just told this black woman that she couldn't go through. So then y'all can't go through. Y'all got to go around the same direction that he just told them. Y'all got to go that way, right? So now I'm fucking playing police officer now, right? Shit was hilarious. He let them pass through, and then the black lady came back, but she came back with the police officer who told her to come to the post where we were at, right? And he was like, yeah, you let her through. She has a hotel reservation. So now the police officer who was at that post that told her no is going back and forth with the officer that she went and grabbed who told her to come that way, right? He said, tell him. Exactly. It's like, come on, we got to advocate for myself, because that's just the person I am. Like, no, you're not going to, like, push over. We got to stand up for ourselves. Right is right and wrong is wrong, yo. And sometimes you got to call them out on their shit, right? Because they may not be consciously aware of their racial bias. That's why it's called implicit racial bias. They're not even aware that they kind of playing favoritism and are acting on these biases that they have in favor of their own race, you know, against other people's races, right? Like, you know, I get it, right? You look out for your own people, but come on, it's like, come on, you're not being fair. That's not right. And so now this officer that she went and grabbed is arguing with the initial officer that was already there, and they going back and forth. I'm like, y'all supposed to be on the same team, like, but you see the extent that they're willing to even go heads at each other. You know what I'm saying? To mistreat and make it a lot more difficult for black people. It's like, are you kidding me? White. When people want to say, oh, racism doesn't exist or things have changed now, just think about that level of inconvenience and the impact that inconvenience has caused on this woman, right? And if she probably didn't have a chance to see, okay, they letting other white people through and seeing the difference in how they're treating white people versus her. But let's say that she did, right? That is a whole nother level of impact, negative impact, that consciously could impact her, right? And even on a subconscious level, right? Even if she's not really aware of it, but she's able to observe this and witness the differences, that still impacts you, even if it's not brought to your awareness. It's still encoded in your subconscious memory that, you know, you're treated differently than another person because of the color of your skin, right? And that translates into also what does that mean? Like, why are you treated differently, right? You know, and it kind of make a person feel invalidated, you know, insignificant, less than, right? And so you wonder why black people show up differently in the world than white people. Prime example, prime reason, right? This racism does exist, but you have people try to say, oh no, it doesn't exist. You know, white people, black people are treated equally. It's not. Yes, both officers were white. That's the funny thing. Both officers were white. And speaking of which, most of the officers out there, I would say, were white. There were some Hispanic. There were some, like, you know, I see a sprinkle of Chinese, Asian. But yeah, and black. There were, like, some black, but majority, I would say, was the white ones out there. And they knew, I guess they probably did that strategically. They got the right white ones out there, right? To try to run the show and shit like that. But it's unfortunate, right? So that was that. Like I say, it goes on. The story goes on. That's not even it. So I'm like, that's kind of fucked up. Me noticing that, right? Just observing, because I was at that barricade, that post right there where the officer was, and just seeing, like, they let some go, others not. So I end up leaving, right? Because I'm like, okay, ain't shit really happening over here, right? And I want to go somewhere else. And I left, went around, actually closer to where the ball was going to drop. And this was probably maybe like 30 minutes out from the ball drop. And it was in front of a train station, right? And it's funny because it's like, no matter where you go, everything is fucking blocked off. So people are standing. They're just standing, right? Even if they ain't come down there for that, they just so happen to be down there, and you just get stuck. That happened to me a couple years ago, and that's how I was able to see the ball drop. Because, like, you come down there, plan to just be stuck. You can't go. They're not even gonna let you go. You're like, what the fuck? I ain't even come down here for this, right? So there was a train station I went close to, and everything was blocked off, right? Meaning you couldn't cross the street in anywhere, any direction. You couldn't cross the street. You just have to, like, stand where you are. And they had this officer there, right? This motherfucker he looked like albino. He looked albino officer. But anyway, he was there, and he was like, I'm by myself. You guys have to go. You can't stand here in front of this train station. You got it. It's like, where the fuck are we gonna go? You can't stand in front of the train. Y'all know that people come down here to see the ball drop, but you can't stand here in front of the train station. So where the hell are we going to go? Oh, you got to go down there. You go down there, right? Meaning down there to the other end of that sidewalk, that block. Same thing. You can't come down here. You gotta go. So it's like they want to play ping pong with your ass back and got you. Like, no, I'm not about to do this. I'm not about to be walking back and forth. Like, just stay. It's better. When you think about it, if their objective is to limit the movement, right, and to reduce any incidents, injury and all of that, like, it's better to keep people where they are. It's not like, you know what I'm saying? It's not like people were causing harm or causing problems just standing there. It's like, you can't stand here. It's just like, are you kidding me, right? So some people were leaving, and I just kind of stood there. I'm like, listen, I'm chilling. And so he came up to me. He was like, can you please go? I'm like, go where? So I'm talking to him like, this doesn't make any sense. He was like, well, can I be honest with you? He was like, you can't see the ball drop from here. I was like, it's not even about seeing the ball drop. It's like, yo, we already out here. It ain't nowhere to fucking go. And so he got upset, and then he gonna go call for backup, and then they came, right? It was a woman. She walked up, and then she looked at me, and she walked away. She walked away. She was like, nah, pick your battles, right? So then another guy, his officer came up. He was kind of cute. He walked up, right? And he was like, what's going on? And then the motherfucking albino officer was like, oh, I told everyone to leave, but she's the only one giving me problems. She don't want to leave, right? And I'm like, oh, that's how you're going to do it. You're going to do it like that. I was like, oh, okay. Damn, I see what you're doing. And so then the officer that came, the cute one, he was like, oh, come with me. Don't worry about it. Come with me. I can escort you across the street. That way you'll be able to see the balls drop. How about that? So he was like more cooperative, right? And made more sense. And I'm like, see, there you go. That's the difference, right? You don't have to be a fucking asshole as an officer. Like, y'all don't even get paid that much to do this job. So why are you sitting up here acting all pompous about it when it's not even that goddamn deep, yo? This is the end of the year. A lot of people went through a lot of shit this year, 2021. Lost family members and shit, lost jobs, like all kind of shit. Having to get vaccinated when they don't even believe in the vaccine. It's like, come on. Give us a fucking break, yo. Nobody is causing no damn problems. And to see how the other officer, the cute one, like, you know what I'm saying, he was a little bit more amenable. Like, he was cool, like, that goes to show they don't always have to be that way. And it kind of reminded me, my colleague who worked on my treatment team at the hospital, her son works for NYPD, and she was like, yeah, he's actually going to be on that post working down there. I was like, okay. And she was like, yeah, let me know if he gives you a hard time. Tell him I'm going to tell all his secrets. So it's funny, I thought about her when she said that, because I'm just like, these little motherfuckers. I don't know if the officer, the friendly one, the cute one, was her son. I don't know. But I thought that was very nice to him. I'm just like, see, all these, y'all don't have to be a fucking dickhead, right? He was very kind. Escorted me across the street, and I actually got a better view, because where I was initially standing near the goddamn albino officer, couldn't see really much anything. You could see like the fireworks coming out from the building, but you couldn't see the actual ball. So going across the street, I had a better view of the fireworks, the ball. Granted, it didn't start yet. They were shooting fireworks somewhat, but the ball hadn't dropped. It was like 30 minutes out. So go across the street. Then I was over there for maybe not even 15 minutes. And I see this black guy, right? A lot of people were like, fuck it, yo. And I can't blame them, honestly, because I'm like, listen, if I ain't have shit to lose, right? Granted, if I hadn't worked as hard as I did to get to where I am right now, right? And being a doctor and have all the things that I've invested in, even my own business, I probably would be acting out too, like, fuck it, right? But then you're just going to get arrested anyway, A lot of people, I'm sure, got arrested last night. But there was a lot of motherfuckers like, fuck this shit, yo. Like, this just is insane, right? I kind of had the attitude, but I was a bit more rational in my approach and how I was going to fucking deal with the situation. And thank God the universe was covering me, too. Because I could have easily been one of them motherfuckers in the hand. Because, like I said, my initial encounter with the police officer when I exited the damn train station, they act like they was about to take me down. Like, they was ready, yo. They swarmed me. Just slight little bit of opposition with the police. Like, you, not even really opposition. It's like you questioning, trying to figure out what the hell is going on. where the hell to go, and they ready to goddamn take you down, and that's if you black. So it's funny, I seen a few black men, right? One black man, he was just like, man, fuck this shit, I ain't going nowhere, da da da. There's another black man, after I had got escorted across the street, I guess they had, they were telling everybody, like, okay, you can't cross the barricades are there for a reason. And he just, like, went across the barricade. Next thing you know, you see a whole bunch of officers, like, come at him, corner him against this building. We were actually in front of Margaritaville in Times Square, at that corner where Margaritaville is, right? And that's a beautiful restaurant, actually. Went there several months ago. But they got him against that wall. I couldn't see from where I was standing. I'm just like, God damn. And so they got him, and then they called for backup. They ended up tasing him, put him in a police car. I had to record because I'm just like, you never know. You never know with these situations, because you got officers that just be trigger happy, right? And they don't follow protocol. Thankfully, they didn't pull out any lethal weapons, right? Because it didn't call for that. All it was just a motherfucker that would want to mind his business. Probably didn't even give a fuck about the show. A lot of black people, especially natives of New York, they don't give a fuck about no fireworks, no ball drop. Not to say all. Of course, you got some that, work in corporate, and they're like, oh, let's go see the ball drop. But that's not majority of black people in New York City. A lot of New York niggas don't give a fuck about that shit. Like, niggas don't give a fuck about that shit, right? They just down there, just chilling. And so I'm sure he was one of those. And, like, yeah, they end up tasing him, poor thing. And I was recording it just in case, right? Even though all of them are wearing body cams, it's just like, yo, you can never be fucking too safe. But he was all right, though. Even though he did call for medical attention, but I think a lot of them do that just to, like, cover themselves. You just never know. And it's sad. I'm thinking to myself, like, putting myself in his shoes. Like, I think it's kind of fucked up. I mean, granted, it's fucked up being a black person in general, but I can see how black men have it hard, because they be ready to take down black women too, but I think they even quicker, when it comes to a black man. They don't have much tolerance. They really don't. They may have, let's say, this much tolerance for black women, right? If we give them some kind of pushback or, question them. But when it comes to black men, it's like, I don't think they have any, to be honest. I don't think they have the way they're trained, they don't have any, zero, zilch, fucking patience, tolerance for black men. And so they just intervene, like, right off the bat, and it's really fucked up. Like, and it just made me think, like, just seeing how NYPD was interacting with the people down there, on a racial level, right? That's kind of what my eyes and ears were tuned to. Though I had a good time, I was enjoying myself, but my antennas are always up when it comes to, like, race politics. And so I'm just like, damn, it's fucked up. It's really fucked up being a black man in America. That's what kind of the thought that came in my mind. Like, it's messed up, because they go through this on a regular basis. And I've had black clients, I have black patients now, just hearing their stories and just seeing, like, how they are targeted, how they are ostracized from our society. And you wonder why, like, you look at the black man, and you see, like, his condition, right? Mental condition, his state of mind, his situation that he's going through. And you're just like, sometimes people aren't astute enough, right? And compassionate enough for black people, especially black men, to look at them through a realistic, fair lens, right? So they'll look at a black man and see, okay, well, he's struggling, right, in society. He has it hard. They attribute that to, okay, his own shortcomings, right? Oh, he's lazy, or he don't want to work, he didn't want to go to school and educate himself, when really it's a lot more complex than that. If you zoom out to see what are the other layers of within our society that negatively impact this man, right, and create these disadvantages for him. These, what I'm saying, you see these major disparities between black men and their white counterparts, and black women and their white counterparts. it's clear as day. You can see it, right? It's just like, it's kind of fucked up. And on my way home, I'm about to end this video, but on my way home, I'm riding a train back to Upper East Side, and Upper East Side is a high-end neighborhood. It's a nice neighborhood. I mean, the median income here is like over six figures. It's 100 and I think 20 some $1,000 for the median income. But there was wealthy people in this neighborhood, and just seeing like, you know, the difference in faces, you can tell like the difference in racial makeup of certain neighborhoods when you're on a train riding through certain neighborhoods. You know, you might be on one train, right? The same train going passing through neighborhoods, and it's like black. And then once you, you know, leave the black neighborhood, you know you're in a different neighborhood when the racial makeup changes. And so, you know, I'm on a train, mostly white people, and they just they just happy, right? They had a great night, I guess, as they should, right? It's New Year's Eve. But it made me think, like, not everyone had a great night, you know. Thinking about the black man that got arrested, it's just like, it's fucked up. And not even just the black man who got arrested, but it was a black man on a train. He was homeless. I don't know his story, but it just made me wonder, like, damn, kind of drawing the connection, right? Between how that black man was treated and Times Square being tased just for fucking crossing the street, basically, right? Yeah, you know, he went past the barricade or whatever, didn't follow orders, but there's a lot of white people out there doing the same thing. You know, they drunk, turned up, doing their thing or whatever. White officers just interact and respond to them differently. They don't use excessive force with them. They talk to them, and they give them many chances, right? But yeah, seeing that, you know, what happened to that guy, the black guy who got tased, and just kind of drawing that connection to this black man, the homeless man on the train, and looking at his face. I mean, he looked very downtrodden, just sad story. And it was just like, and then seeing the dichotomy between the black man on the train and then these motherfucking happy ass white people, right? Having a good time on their way home from the New Year's Eve celebrations, and you know, it's just unfortunate just to see like the lifestyle, their life is different. And it's not something new to me. I'm just talking about it now and talking about, you know, my experience last night, New Year's Eve celebration. But of course, I've noticed this several times, many times over. Living in Upper East Side, Harlem is not that far away. I tend to walk to Harlem sometimes. It is a couple miles north of where I am. And just seeing like the difference, it's just a stark difference between Harlem and Upper East Side. And yeah, that's a whole nother video. I'm gonna talk more about this, but yeah, we talk about change and what needs to be done, and of course, you know, you have black leaders to say, well, we gotta pick ourselves up by our own bootstraps, right? You gotta create our own programs, our own institutions, build our own, right? That's why Dr. Umar Johnson is striving so hard to build the FDMG Academy in Delaware. And not aside from that, you know, black people are opening their own grocery stores, you know, restaurants, and just wanting to build our own infrastructure, not have to rely and depend on white people necessarily for anything. And that's a good thing, right? But it takes a lot more than that. So on that, I'm gonna end on that note. But yeah, it's just kind of left like a sad taste in my mouth. Though, like I said, I came home, I had a good time, right? Because I have this attitude where I tend to look at, I see things for what they are, but I also look at things through a positive lens too, right? To not necessarily let the woes of the world and our society weigh so heavily on me, right? As a black woman, so that I'm not able to enjoy the fruits of my labor and just enjoy life. You know, life is meant to be enjoyed. Life is not meant to just be living through life, passing through life, struggling, sad, depressed, you know, angry. Like, no, I can't live my life like that. Though I do understand and very aware of the realities that impact us on many different levels. And so I had a great time, though, looking back. I mean, New York is a very vibrant city, right? Nothing is all bad, right? It has its bad parts. It's, it's a vibrant city, and it was just a lot. It was a lot happening. So of course there were after parties. I would like to see how like New Year's people are still blowing horns, but I would like to see like how New York is, like the countdown New Year's Eve celebration is in Brooklyn. I don't think I ever brought in the New Year necessarily in Brooklyn, so I might do that this year. Time goes by so fast, so we are already here in 2022. Isn't that something? January 1st. It's like, wow, I feel very grateful. I have a lot to be grateful for, given that things kind of fell into place. They always fall into place for me, thank God. Like, I think I just have good karma where things go as I wish for them to go. So I did complete my 5-year PhD program last year, graduated, started, I got offered several positions. I was able to pick which postdoc position. But postdoc is basically just, a full-time job you get after you complete your doctorate degree, right? But it's necessary because it's en route to licensure. So was able to get offered several different, jobs, postdoc, and be able to choose, which one I wanted. So I feel like that's a blessing, right? Like that's a good thing, and decent salary, by the way. So great. Like life is good. So I'm just grateful things, fall in place for me, and I have good luck or blessings, angels covering me and things like that. But I gotta eat. I'm about to go grab me something to eat. I have not eaten yet. What time is it? I don't know. Let's see. What time is it? And how did you guys spend New Year's Eve? I know a lot of people kind of stayed inside for New Year's. I was trying to pull my phone to see.